Welcome to this podcast brought to you by D-Hub MT, which is Malta's European Digital Innovation Hub, powered by MDIA, Malta Digital and Innovation Authority. Our guest speaker for today is Dr. Patrick Camilleri, who is a distinguished academic and holds the position of Senior Lecturer at the University of Malta. His expertise lies in the fields of AI, digital transformations, digital pedagogies, and he imparts his knowledge within the Faculty of Education. Welcome, Dr. Camilleri. If I had to tell you from obviously your personal experience in this sector, what has led you to choose such a career in this specific sector?
Oh, well, it's quite complicated.
You're going to simplify it, I'm assuming.
Definitely. Because before I entered into the sector of ICT and digital transformation, I taught physics for 17 years, but over time I got saturated and I wanted a change. I started my master's at the University of Sheffield, where way back in 1997 I came face to face with the internet and I saw its potential. It was at its beginning of its popularization, at the beginning of the World Wide Web. Actually, it was a time when I was working with Internet Explorer and Netscape, but I saw certain qualities that I believe would eventually enhance culture and education in general. I believe I'm lucky that I know what it was before the population of the internet and after, and how communication and even modalities of self-expressions have changed. Today, or lately, I'm experiencing another similar change. I'm not saying the same, but it's similar, on how AI is going to influence even the way we work, express ourselves, and ultimately live. So if I were to define myself, I would say I'm a futurist, but also a jack of all trades and master of none. Actually, I believe I'm lucky to be master of none because it will keep me moving on. One last thing, more than AI, my expertise lies on the way people accept technologies, contextualize technologies, and use it. So in that manner, while our attitudes and behaviors have remained the same for this last 100,000 years, technology has changed a lot. So it gives me the opportunity where I study the way people relate and behave according to different technologies as they arise.
Before we move on to AI in the education sector, because obviously that's going to be very interesting, I think none other better than you, as a lecturer, would be able to explain what AI is. We've been hearing a lot about AI, we know the meaning of it, which is artificial intelligence, but I would like to ask you to explain to us, summarize to our viewers, if you had to, the first time you're going to meet someone, you're going to explain AI, how would you describe it and explain it?
So first of all, before I go into artificial intelligence, I would try to tackle the issue of what intelligence is. And that is very complex, and various people have different ideas what it is, but in a very simple manner, I believe that intelligence lies in problem-solving skills, creativity, ways of using what you have to move to the next level, and actually it is the attitude and the aptitudes that make us develop over time, besides other things. And other things, there are also the qualities that make us human. I'm saying this because obviously artificial intelligence, there's the word artificial. But more than anything, artificial intelligence is referring to intelligent machines, to autonomous machines. And when I talk about machine autonomy, I'm referring that there are machines that are programmed in a certain way where they can make their own decisions according to the situations as they arise. It's artificial because they are machines, and until now, it's artificial because they don't possess the qualities that make us human. What I intend by the qualities that make us human, I mean, I can enjoy watching sunset, but if it comes from artificial intelligence, it would tell me why the sunset is orange, for instance. I would know why it's orange, but I appreciate the beauty. AI, at least up to where we know, cannot say that. But even when it comes to AI, we have to consider that it's narrow AI, which can actually consolidate, define only a specific issue and work around it or solve it. And there is general AI, which for now shouldn't exist, where we will have a kind of artificial intelligence whose attitudes and behaviors might be closer or more similar to us. I don't know if we'll be arriving till there. There are people who say that we can get there in 5 years. I don't know.
We'll just have to see.
Yes, fingers crossed. Yes.
If we had to move to AI in the educational sector, how would you say that AI would change the way we teach in schools?
It's a very particular question. And the reason is that, and I have to express myself in this, since the first industrial revolution, when people moved from the fields as farmers to the factory floor, education was designed to make people more productive in manufacturing. Over time, manufacturing was taken over by the service economy, and we started moving more into digitalization, internet, office work. But the model adopted in education way back in the Industrial Revolution remained practically the same. I'm not saying that it is wrong. Actually, I believe it does work, because if it doesn't work, today we'll not be here talking about artificial intelligence. Yet, it doesn't conform to the changes that are taking place outside. So, while the educational system, because it is composed of people with various qualities and different aptitudes and attitudes, is moving at a certain pace, which today is being considered as being very slow, outside things are very different. And there is this misalignment between what the technologies, the digital technologies can procure, and how the educational system can actually digest what's happening outside and use it or interpret it within the schools. The problem is that while we're digesting it, things are continuously changing. Well, they had the same problem when it came to the internet. There are various circumstances where, for instance, the internet and the World Wide Web aren't allowed to be used in formal educational context, or they are very limited. Then again, the audience out there is changing a lot. So there is this misalignment where we might not only be getting students who are alienated to the education model that is being presented, but even the teachers themselves. Because if I have teachers who are 24, 25 years old, even 30 years old, if we consider that the internet as we know it and digitization became popularized, let's say around 2K. So someone who is 26 years old, he or she was born in 1997, which means that by the time they were 10, they were actually expressing themselves through the screen. And then you go inside the classroom and you cannot do it. And the students that are in the classroom are changing, their culture is changing so fast because digitization is changing a lot. I mean, I remember.
Pace. So there's a problem in the pace as well.
Yes, there's a problem in the pace, which is creating lots of tension and stress in the teachers themselves. Actually, the problem is, should we prepare the teachers for the technology of tomorrow with what we have available today? Or should I imagine on how it can be and maybe even push teachers on a tangent? So in my case, as I mentioned before, I prefer to focus on the qualities that make us human. And the qualities that make us human go beyond creativity. But for instance, decision making. At the moment, I might be tense or nervous because I have to decide of what I have to say. Because what I have to say will be seen by an audience. So if I'm a teacher, more than actually focusing on a particular technology that I can use within the classroom, I have to decide on how best to work with what I have and how best to use it according to the audience that I have. And I don't know if that's unfortunate or not, but the reality varies between one school and another, between one classroom and another, and even if I'm using the same school and the same classroom, on the students who are moving from one class to another. Because if the audience changes, then even the reality changes. So yes, teachers, it's not because they don't want to, but one, we have to prepare them better on how to move on. And there's also the issue that content is still very important at school, but content isn't knowledge. And that's another problem as well. And content becomes knowledge when it's meaningful. As a simple example, I can say, I couldn't find parking to get here, and say, okay, but if you experienced the same thing, then you know what it means. So what I'm saying is more meaningful to you because you're experiencing it.
True.
So if the audience inside the classroom is changing, and in 5 years, I mean, I have a son who's 19 years old and a one who's 40, and I speak to both of them about their friends and how they act and react when it comes to technology, and it's different. I can, yes, there's research that shows that every 5 years, the culture of the students that we're having, of younger generation, is changing a lot. And education isn't. So there's this kind of friction, actually. I would say it's a misalignment.
And obviously we have to keep in mind that the student will then later move on to the working force.
And that is again an issue, because when I talk about education myself, people tend to define my education inside a school with young pupils. Yes and no. Because today, more than ever, we're experiencing lifelong learning. Technology has opened new horizons of possibilities that weren't available before. For instance, we can say that if we introduce computers, then people who work with their hands will have work to do, less work to do. No, actually, computers require technicians, require software developers, there is security and different, so it creates new opportunities. Then again, if the situation inside the school more or less remains the same, when these students are going at the workplace where there are workers who are adopting lifelong learning, again there is further misalignment, because I am preparing the workers at work according to the situation that is changing. And in the meantime, I'm getting new workers who have to adopt the work environment as it is, adapt to it, and actually enact. When I say enact, it means that the workers themselves have to decide of how best to avail themselves of what they have to be more productive, to create other things as well.
True. What you're saying is very true, because obviously then when you work and when you are studying, it's a whole different spectrum.
Yes.
And then is when you get to experience,
Yes.
like you said. So no matter what technology it is, it's the knowledge and the practice that would actually would be needed by the human
The
to
facilitation of
perform.
how to use it, yes.
Perfect. Can you highlight a particular achievement or project that you would say in your lifetime stands out, that you have been able to continue on and it has benefited you so much?
Yes, you mean something I did, you mean?
Something
Yes.
you did.
I remember that in 2014, I was approached by a colleague of mine, and she told me if I would be interested to take an Erasmus project on robotics. And I told her, I don't know anything about robotics. But she told me, you'll be traveling. I said, oh, that would be nice, you know?
That was the highlight.
Yes, yes. And I delved into this project, and there I started to realize what robotics can do, even the educational sector. At that time, I was working with a particular product. I don't know if I could mention the product.
You can.
It's Lego. And I try to see, because this is an issue, I'm going to take a step back on this. The tendency is that, for instance, we get a group of teachers at a classroom, we show them particular technology, we show them how it works, we tell them why, and it doesn't stick. It doesn't stick because they can't relate to it. They can't get meaning out of it. They can't see how best they can use it, they can avail of it in their or within the subject that they teach. And I was never comfortable with that thing. So I said, okay, there's Widow, wow, I can work with Widow, but how can I make it meaningful to the audience I was working with? Incidentally, at that time, my wife just published a book for young children. It was about the Halley's Comet. And the Halley's Comet actually was explaining as the Halley's Comet moves from the outer limits of the solar system towards the sun. And I said, wow, how can I combine that to robotics? So I said, yes, first of all, I can use the book with various video clips I found on the internet to explain to the students what the solar system is. I got funding for the project. We hired an artist. So first of all, I read the book, I showed the solar system, the artist created models. Actually, the students created the models of the solar system themselves, with the colors, etc. We made them do presentations themselves to enhance decision-making skills in them. Why they did what they did, to explain it to the other groups, because we believe that learning is a social process. You know what I'm saying? It's between us, and we're both learning from it. And then I focused on Mars and the Moon as the closest planetary bodies around us that we could possibly populate in the near future. And I said to these students, let's create different robot models that you can actually, if you are scientists, you can send to the Moon and Mars to try them out. In the meantime, we also created models of the Moon and the Earth, huge models, 3 meters big. The students weren't allowed to use them, but they had to test their robots somewhere similar to these landscapes. Why? Because the landscapes represented the Moon and Mars. Once you send them, if they stop functioning, you can't get them back. So they had, again, this responsibility.
Very challenging.
Yes, to create the right kind of robot. We started with the simplest, with the models, but then the students themselves decided how to enhance them. And then the competition was to see if they would actually manage to move throughout the whole landscapes of the Moon and the Mars. There were those that succeeded and those that didn't. And then the exercise was how difficult, and it's quite a challenge for scientists to design the right kinds of robots and actually put them on the landscapes. Ultimately, and it was the first time it happened in the world, because it happened later on, but we were the first time to do it. We set up an appointment at the American Embassy. The students set up questions, and were invited over with all the students who were involved to classes, and they were actually talking with a real astronaut.
Wow.
Yes, so there, the robots as such was instrumental for them to get a more tangible experience about the solar system, which was part of what they were doing at school. So that it was immersed in it. And hopefully I will be doing it again, but now I'll be doing even research from it, because yes, I should have performed the research out of it, but it was more focused to see that it works out more than the actual research. So,
Dr. Camilleri, we're at the end of our podcast.
Okay.
One final message from you that would obviously highlight and carry forward AI without excluding the human element. What would that message from you to our viewers be?
So, it is a quote that I have used in a previous presentation. AI will not replace people, but people who use AI will replace those who do not. We have to learn to work alongside these technologies. I do it every day. I mean, I do my presentations. I don't use ChatGPT, I prefer Google Bard myself. But for instance, I use Gamma AI. I express myself what I want from Gamma AI, and then I make it mine. So
Excellent.
I can do it, others can do it as well.
And that brings us to the end of today's podcast. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for watching this podcast brought to you by D-Hub MT, Malta's European Digital Innovation Hub, powered by MDIA, Malta Digital and Innovation Authority. Catch you next time.